An encyclopedia for the practitioner in the mundane world, a brief introduction to the Vimalakirti Sutra. Introduction, the layman who transcends form. Among the vast and boundless collection of Buddhist scriptures, there is one particularly unique classic. Its protagonist is not the Buddha, seated in lofty splendor expounding the Dharma, but a layman living in a bustling city, with a wife and children, moving through marketplaces and even entering taverns and gambling dens. This scripture is the Vimalakirti Sutra, often praised as the flower of Mahayana Buddhist thought. The full title of this scripture is the Vimalakirti Sutra, the teaching of Vimalakirti, also known as the Sutra on Inconceivable Liberation or the Sutra of the Pure Name. It is not only an important early text of Mahayana Buddhism, but also a profound philosophical masterpiece that deeply influenced Chinese Buddhism and Chinese culture for over a millennium. If the Diamond Sutra discusses how to sweep away appearances and break attachments, then the Vimalakirti Sutra explains how, amidst the worldly life, one can be with forms yet remain detached, realizing enlightenment right within the midst of afflictions. It reveals to the world that true practice does not require retreating into the mountains and forests or formally renouncing home life. The highest, inconceivable liberation can be achieved right here in the defiled world, within the fabric of daily life. 1. Explanation of the title. Who is Vimalakirti? To understand this sutra, one must first understand its legendary protagonist, Vimalakirti. Vimalakirti is a transliteration of the Sanskrit term, which is interpreted in Chinese as pure name or spotless reputation. Here, Vimla, pure/spotless, represents immaculate purity, and Kirti, name/fame, represents widespread renown. Together, it signifies one who is renowned throughout the world for his pure and spotless virtue. According to scriptural records, the layman Vimalakirti was an elder, wealthy and respected leader, in the city of Vaishali during the time of the Buddha Shakyamuni in India. He was not an ordinary wealthy man, his origins were profound. Many ancient commentaries suggest he was actually an ancient Buddha named Tathagata golden-colored fragrance, or Simanurti Yudi, golden-grained Tathagata, who manifested in the form of a layman to assist Shakyamuni Buddha in teaching sentient beings. The Vimalakirti Sutra contains an extremely brilliant passage depicting this atypical image of the lay bodhisattva. Though he wears the white robe of a layman, he observes the pure precepts of a monk. Though he lives at home, he does not cling to the three realms. Though he has a wife and children, he constantly cultivates pure conduct. Though surrounded by family, he delights in detachment. Though adorned with jewels, he is adorned with the excellent marks of a Buddha. Though he eats and drinks, his true enjoyment comes from the taste of meditative bliss. He even visits brothels, to expose the fault of desire. He even enters taverns, to establish people in right resolve. This is Vimalakirti. He wears white, the dress of a householder, yet practices the precepts of a renunciant. He has a wife and family, yet his mind constantly abides in purity. He even frequents gambling dens, brothels, and taverns, not for indulgence, but to liberate those sunk in such activities. Through this ultimate form of worldliness, he shattered people's narrow views of practice and liberation. 2. Transmission and Translations, a remarkable book influencing a millennium. The Vimalakirti Sutra was likely composed in India around the 1st or 2nd century CE, during the rise of Mahayana Buddhist thought. After being introduced to China at the end of the Han Dynasty, it was highly favored and translated as many as 7 times. Among these many translations, the most widely circulated and influential is the 3-fascicle, 14-chapter version, the Vimalakirti Sutra, translated by the renowned Kuchian monk Kumarajiva in Chang'an around 406 CE. Master Kumarajiva's translation is celebrated for its elegant prose and smooth philosophical expression. Being both faithful to the Sanskrit original and possessing the grace of classical Chinese, it is regarded as a masterpiece of translated literature. Another significant version is the six-fascicle discourse on the Spotless One translated by the great Tang dynasty master Xuanzang, which, though more precise, is less widely circulated due to its more complex language. This sutra was immensely popular from the northern and southern dynasties through the Sui and Tang periods, becoming essential reading for literati and scholars. The young scholar Seng Zhao, upon reading Laozi and Zhuangzi, lamented, "Beautiful indeed, but the method for stilling the mind and transcending worldly concerns is not yet perfected." It was only upon reading the Vimalakirti Sutra that he exclaimed with joy, "Now I know where to return," and subsequently renounced home life to become a great master. The famous painter Gu Kaiji of the Eastern Jin dynasty painted a portrait of Vimalakirti for Wagwan Temple, drawing such enormous crowds that donations reached 1 million, illustrating the sutra's profound societal impact at the time. 3. Core Teachings, the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality and Inconceivable Liberation. The Vimalakirti Sutra contains vast and profound ideas, but its core can be summarized by two key concepts: the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality and Inconceivable Liberation. 1. The Dharma Gate of Non-Duality, the wisdom that transcends duality. Non-duality is the philosophical red thread running through the entire sutra. Duality refers to the myriad opposing concepts in our ordinary minds. Good versus evil, beautiful versus ugly, right versus wrong, affliction versus enlightenment, birth and death, samsara versus nirvana, renouncing the world versus engaging the world. We habitually cling to one side, pursuing what we deem good and rejecting what we deem bad. This is duality. Non-duality means penetrating the empty nature of all these opposites, seeing that they are not fundamentally separate but interdependent, like two sides of the same coin. Chapter 9, the chapter on entering the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality, is the climax of the entire sutra. When the Bodhisattva Manjushri asks the layman Vimalakirti, "How does a bodhisattva enter the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality?" Vimalakirti remains completely silent. This silence became an eternal masterpiece in the history of Chinese Zen Buddhism. Bodhisattva Manjushri then exclaimed, "Excellent! Excellent! To be without words or speech, this is truly entering the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality. For once words are used, there is again the duality of speaker and spoken. Ultimate reality transcends language and thought." 2. When the mind is pure, the Buddha land is pure, the Pure Land is not far away. In the opening chapter, the chapter on the Buddha land, the elder Ratnakara asks the Buddha about the pure practices of a bodhisattva. The Buddha responds with a revolutionary idea. If a bodhisattva wishes to attain a pure land, he should purify his mind. When the mind is pure, the Buddha land is pure. At that time, Sariputra, foremost in wisdom, had a doubt. If the Buddha's mind was pure when he was practicing the Bodhisattva path, why is this Buddha land, our world, so impure? The Buddha immediately pressed his toe to the ground, and in an instant, the entire trichiliocosm was transformed into a magnificent, jewel-adorned Pure Land. He told Sariputra, "My Buddha land is always thus pure, but because sentient beings are defiled in mind, they do not see it." This passage shifts the concept of the Pure Land from a distant Western paradise back to the present moment of our own minds. It teaches us that we need not disdain this Saha world and seek rebirth in another. As long as we can purify our minds, the very world we inhabit becomes the Pure Land. This is the profound meaning of, when the mind is pure, the Buddha land is pure. 3. Practicing Chan amidst desire, afflictions are enlightenment itself. Regarding the relationship between practice and secular life, the Vimalakirti Sutra offers revolutionary guidance. Vimalakirti criticizes practitioners who merely sit in dull, form-based meditation, detached from life. He proposes the principle of manifesting ordinary life without abandoning the way, and entering nirvana without cutting off afflictions. There's a famous dialogue in the sutra. Seeing Sariputra meditating under a tree, Vimalakirti challenges him. Sariputra, it is not necessary to sit like that to truly meditate. True meditation is to manifest body and mind in the three realms without any fault, that is sitting in meditation. The essence of true meditation is not the physical act of sitting with eyes closed, but interacting with all situations without becoming stained or attached, without giving rise to afflictions. This thinking shattered the Hinayana view that opposed the worldly life to nirvana. As the sutra famously states, the Dharma is in the world, enlightenment is not apart from the world. Liberation is not in the distant future, nor in another realm. It is right here, in each thought and every interaction of our present moment. 4. Structure and outline, the story in 14 chapters. The Vimalakirti Sutra comprises 3 fascicles and 14 chapters, structured like a brilliant multi-act drama. Chapter 1, The Buddha Land, the scene is set. The Buddha teaches at the Amra Grove Garden. The youth Ratnakara asks about the pure Buddha land, leading to the core teaching. When the mind is pure, the Buddha land is pure. Chapter 2, Skillful Means, introduces Vimalakirti, describing his various skillful means as he penetrates all levels of society to liberate beings. Chapter 3, The Disciples, Sariputra's visit to inquire about the illness. The Buddha asks his 10 great disciples, including Sariputra, Maudgalyana, and Mahakasyapa, to visit the sick Vimalakirti. But each declines, having been humbled by Vimalakirti's wisdom in past encounters. Chapter 4, The Bodhisattvas, Manjushri's visit to inquire about the illness. The Buddha then asks bodhisattvas like Maitreya and Radiant Light, Prabhudaratna, but they also decline, having been challenged by him before. Chapter 5, The Consolation of the Invalid, Manjushri, foremost in wisdom, accepts the challenge and goes. When asked about his illness, Vimalakirti replies, "Because all sentient beings are sick, therefore I am sick," expounding the great compassion of a bodhisattva. Chapter 6, The Inconceivable Liberation. Vimalakirti performs a miracle, borrowing lion seeds from a distant Buddha land, demonstrating the inconceivable liberation of a bodhisattva. E.g., placing Mount Sumeru into a mustard seed. Chapter 7, The Goddess, Manjushri asks about observing sentient beings. The famous goddess scattering flowers episode occurs. Flowers fall on the bodhisattvas and fall off, they stick to the disciples, Sariputra, illustrating that attachment lies in the mind, not the object. Chapter 8, The Family of the Tathagata, the Path of the Buddha. Explains what constitutes the true Buddha way, introducing the profound principle of passing through what is not the path, one penetrates the Buddha path. Or, accomplishing the Buddha way by practicing what is not the Buddha way. Chapter 9, Entering the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality, 31 bodhisattvas give their definitions of non-duality. Finally, Vimalakirti's thunderous silence elevates the teaching to its ultimate expression. Chapter 10, The Fragrant Rice, the feast brought by the emanated incense. Vimalakirti miraculously brings food from the land of the Buddha fragrant accumulation, Gandhadamakutta, revealing the splendor of other Buddha lands. Chapter 11, The Actions of the Bodhisattvas, the Buddha explains how bodhisattvas should conduct themselves in the world. Chapter 12, The Vision of Akshobhya Buddha, Vimalakirti reveals his origin, manifesting the pure land of Akshobhya Buddha, Abharati, for all to see. Chapter 13, The Offering of the Dharma, the Buddha entrusts the Dharma, emphasizing that offering the Dharma is the supreme offering. Chapter 14, The Entrusting of the Dharma, the Buddha entrusts the sutra to the Bodhisattva Maitreya for its preservation and dissemination. 5. Cultural influence, the Sinicized Vimalakirti. The influence of the Vimalakirti Sutra on Chinese culture extends far beyond religion. Philosophically, it profoundly influenced the later development of Zen Buddhism. The thoughts of the sixth patriarch Huineng, such as the Dharma is in the world and the practice style of no abiding and no attachment, clearly echo the Vimalakirti Sutra. In many ways, the Platform Sutra is the flowering of Vimalakirti thought on Chinese soil. In literature and art, the image of Vimalakirti became a beloved subject for literati and painters. Gu Kaiji's depiction of an emaciated figure manifesting illness, and the hundreds of murals depicting the Vimalakirti Sutra in the Mogeo caves at Dunhuang, bear witness to the sutra's artistic attraction. The Tang dynasty poet Wang Wei, whose courtesy name was Maujia, combining his name and style name to form Vimalakirti, demonstrates the deep admiration for this lay bodhisattva. In our everyday vocabulary, terms we commonly use like the Dharma gate of non-duality, fragrant rice kitchen, referring to a monastery kitchen, and heavenly maiden scattering flowers all originate from this sutra. Conclusion: a guide for the lay practitioner. In today's fast-paced world, most people cannot renounce home life and retreat into solitude. The Vimalakirti Sutra offers us a complete guide for practice within the household. It teaches us that practice does not necessarily mean retreating to the mountains, it can happen in the office. Liberation is not necessarily in a future life, it is in the present moment. True purity is not leaving afflictions behind to seek another kind of purity elsewhere, but seeing the empty nature within afflictions. True liberation is not escaping the world, but moving through the world with a mind that abides nowhere and acts with skillful means. As the Layman Vimalakirti demonstrates, the lotus flower, born from the mud, is most fragrant and pure precisely because of it. This is the most precious wisdom the Vimalakirti Sutra leaves for us in this modern age.